All right, guys, welcome to Metabolism School. I'm very excited that you're here for this training. This training is being done, it's absolutely free. This is one of three trainings that we are going to do. With the purpose of this training is to teach you everything you didn't know regarding the metabolism and how to lose weight. Let's face it, it is very confusing out there in the world of weight loss. Now, I've been doing this work for a long time, and I'll tell you guys, every single day I wake up, I peruse Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and I see all the stuff that's going on out there. And for those of you who are not experts in this stuff, I almost feel sorry for you because it is so confusing. One minute you're not supposed to be eating any wheat, the next minute you're supposed to be eating these fancy berries that come from the rainforest. The next minute, you shouldn't eat any carbohydrates. The next minute, all you should eat are certain carbohydrates. Fat is now the savior. It used to be the thing that's going to kill us, and toxins are everywhere. And, you know, everyone's trying to sell you something. And that gets confusing. The other thing that gets really confusing is the fact that how do you know how to make sense of this? What is important? And here's the analogy that I want to give you. I think this is really the truth of the situation. Imagine that you are back in elementary school and you have a dream of one day becoming an engineer, and you want to be the best engineer that you can be, and you learn addition and subtraction, and you know that in order to be the best engineer, you have to learn geometry and algebra and quadratic equations and advanced math, and you're looking forward to that. Except along the way, all you get every year is someone teaching you addition and subtraction. You never get the advanced math, and therefore you never understand why you're not being successful as an engineer, why you can't become an engineer, why all your houses are falling down, you can't build the right bridges, and nothing's working. This is the analogy I want you to keep in mind when it comes to weight loss. The reason it is so hard for people is because of their insistence. We do have to take some responsibility for this, by the way, all of us, including me, our insistence on trying to do it the easy way in a cookbook fashion. Plus, there's a lot of blame to be divvied out as well in the personal training and nutrition and natural health and conventional medical worlds as well, because all they want to do is teach you about addition and subtraction. They're not teaching you what you need to know about the metabolism, which is why I am doing this. So is it going to be some technical stuff? At times it will be, but I'm going to try to make this as easy as possible. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to tell you a little bit about my story so you understand who you're talking to, that I'm not just a guy who is this super fit dude who, doesn't feel the plight of anybody who is dealing with this stuff. So here's the deal. I started out in about the age of 15 years old, 13 years old, really. I had two older brothers who were very fit, and those brothers were into fitness and weight training. And I told my dad at the time, I was, I don't know, 10, 11 years old. I said, Dad, I want to lift weights with my brothers, Chemo and Keone. I want to lift weights with them. He said, Jade, you're too young. You're going to stunt your growth. You can't do that. But you know what you can do? You can do push-ups and sit-ups. Do push-ups and sit-ups and just do that. And then when you're ready in a couple years, you can start lifting weights. So I did hundreds of push-ups, hundreds of sit-ups, thousands of sit-ups, thousands of push-ups. And I became a fanatic about trying to learn everything I could about health and fitness. By the time I was 15, I was already essentially a personal trainer, writing programs for people on my football team and their mothers and their families. And I went on to study biochemistry as an undergrad student at NC State University. And I'll tell you what, during that time, personal training, working with people, I was a super fit dude, and I just didn't understand it. I thought people were lazy. I thought they were gluttons. I was like, what the hell is wrong with these people? Just do what I'm telling you to do, and you're going to get the results that I'm telling you to get. What the hell is your problem? Just do it. You're lazy. That's what I thought. In a very naive way, I thought that, right? You guys, some of us can relate to how naive and sort of maybe arrogant we were in our younger years. I kind of embarrassed about how I was now, but something happened to me when I got to medical school. Now, I bartended when I was in medical school, and I went to medical school. A lot of people in my medical school did not have to work, but I did. and I would bartend. And here's what my days would look like. I would spend all week bartending. I'm sorry, going to medical school classes full time. And then on Friday night, I would go into the bar around 9 o'clock or 11 o'clock, depending on which bartender I was, the early bartender or the late bartender. And I would get out around anywhere from 2:30 in the morning to 4 o'clock or 4:30. And then I had to work. So here's what I did. That was Friday night. I then slept, get this, I slept 2 hours and was up at 6 a.m. for a 12-hour shift at a gym that me and my brother talked the owners into letting us work the whole Saturday so that we could get all our work in one Saturday so we could focus on school. And I would sometimes, this was a gym, by the way, that trained every 20 minutes, the 20-minute workout. So sometimes I would train 24 people in a day, right? Craziness. And then I would once again go back to the bar that night and bartend again on Saturday night. And then, of course, I would sleep all day Sunday, just about, try to, get in a workout or something like that. And then I was back in the clinic again, back doing medical school, and then I would repeat that cycle over and over again. Now, along the way, something happened. I started not to feel too good. Okay, here's this lean, fit guy that all of a sudden I'm starting to get tired. I'm starting to feel sick. I'm starting to feel a little bit depressed. I am craving all kinds of junk foods and things like that. I'm not really myself. And along the way, I also was experimenting with certain dietary regimes, namely vegetarianism. And one of the things I would do is I'd go to this place called Jamba Juice, and I would get these big, huge protein shakes because I thought I was doing recovery and helping myself. And let me show you what happened to me. This is essentially what happened to me. I gained 30 pounds in about 3 month period of time during this lifestyle I was living. I went from a lean, fit guy to a fat guy. And it was shocking to me. As a matter of fact, it was so shocking to me. Maybe some of you can relate if you've ever gained weight that fast. It was so shocking to me that I didn't even really see it. I guess because I was living with myself every day. But my brother Keone, in his sort of wry, sarcastic sense of humor that he has, he looked at me one day and he goes, "Hey, Jade, where you going? Jumbo Juice?" And that was his way. Instead of Jamba Juice, he called it Jumbo Juice. That was his way of politely, humorously saying, "Hey, dude, you've gotten fat as hell. You better do something about it." And I looked in the mirror at the gym, and this is essentially what I looked like. Now, I was a big, muscular guy. I could lift a lot of weight. I was doing everything that I could do, but this was essentially my before picture. Now, this isn't my actual before picture because this picture that you're seeing here was about 3, 4 years ago. Because what happened was after I got in this state, I diagnosed myself with hypothyroid. I fixed the situation. I cut back on my work volume. I started working out more intelligently. I did all the things I needed to do to get myself back in shape, and I did. By the time I graduated from medical school, I was, on my way, on the mend, and I came home to North Carolina. I started a fitness business. I started Metabolic Effect. I got in kick-ass shape once again, got back to where I had always been, and maybe some of you can guess what happened. Guess what happened to me? Well, what happened is the similar situation. I started working. I started being sleep deprived again. I started pouring everything I could into my business. And before I knew it, once again, I was back at this state. And those of you who have followed Metabolic Effect over the years have probably seen this. If you've watched me, you've probably seen me for the first time in my life. This never happened when I was young, doing this yo-yo weight gain, where you see me on some videos one day and I look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, and then a couple months later you're like, "Oh, Jade's thin again," and then back and forth. And by the way, working with people with hypothyroid, this is an issue that we tend to have. We can gain fat really, really easily. Luckily, I've always had muscle, so even in this picture you're looking at here, I have a lot of muscle on my frame. Okay. Finally, I began to sort of take my own advice. And you might say, "Well, Jade, what do you mean by take your own advice?" Because while I was doing Metabolic Effect, meanwhile, I was helping hundreds and then thousands of people online who were dealing with the same issues I was dealing with, and helping them get healthy again, and helping them never go through this yo-yo cycle again. And something happened to me where I guess I thought this did not apply to me. Maybe some of you can relate to this. Raise your hand if you can relate to that, right? Where this is like this situation where, well, it doesn't apply to me. It only applies to other people. That's the mental state I was in. Finally, so I can see a lot of people raising their hand. They relate to that. I get it, right? I get it now. The arrogant young Jade did not understand that. Finally, I realized I had to start doing something. I had to start following my own advice. And literally, I started following my own advice. I hit 40. Those of you who have turned 40, you know this is sort of a big psychological sort of barrier for us. And I was just say, Jade, you cannot keep doing this. You have got to start following your own advice. And I spent the year from age 40 to, and it started in my around 39, but 40 to 41. And this was the result of me getting back in shape. And now you might say, well, Jade, how have you done since then? Well, since then, I made it a priority every year to take a selfie, a birthday selfie. So my 41st year and my 42nd year, I just turned 42. And here are my pictures. So this would be my 40th year. And this picture here, if I come down, these would be my 41st year on the left, and just a few days ago on the right, about a month ago on the right. This is where I am now. Now, let me tell you a couple things I did. I have this banana here. Why? Because one of the things I did was discover something about myself. I need carbohydrates. One of the things I was doing previous to this, before I got in shape, is I was depleting carbs and doing what a lot of people do, because I was out there. Hey, I'm not immune to it either, right? I was out there being like, oh, I got to cut carbs, because I used to do that when I was young and at work, and I'll cut my carbohydrates. The problem was that made me crave the very things that I was cutting out, and I would eat way too many of them. I call it the banana effect, because I love bananas, but I wouldn't eat them because I was like, well, they got too many carbohydrates in them. And because I didn't eat them, later on that day or that week, I was eating cheesecake and French fries and everything else because I didn't have the banana. How many people can relate to that? How many people fall susceptible to the banana effect, right? So I see a ton of people raising their hand. A lot of us do, right? So I figured out I needed carbohydrates. I also figured out I had to follow my advice with exercise. Even though I had been preaching smart exercise for years, I was over exercising. I was doing too much and exercising too much because I like to exercise. I had to find a way to do this more smartly. And the most critical thing I did was begin to pay attention to my stress management, my lifestyle, not what I was eating and not what I was doing in the gym, but what I was doing everywhere else. I started to walk, relaxing walk, something I had been recommending for people for years that I had never done myself. I started to meditate. I started to listen to books on tape. I started to slow down. I started to sit in the morning and have coffee and relax instead of jump up in the morning and run around like a chicken with my head cut off. I started taking long baths. I started hanging out in the saunas. I started spending money on spas and massage therapies and all these kinds of things. And it made a huge difference. Now, why am I telling you this? And why am I starting out with this story before I get into the backbone of what I want to teach you? I am telling you this for two reasons. Number one, I'm telling you this because I want you to understand I get it. I have been there. And guess what? I probably will continue to have to adjust as we go along. I'll tell you right now, I just got back from Los Angeles. My lifestyle there is a little different. I'm sort of bi-coastal now. Now when I'm back home, I've already put on 2 or 3 pounds. And I don't even look at the poundage, guys. I just basically pay attention to the way my belt feels. And so you do have to adjust. And so I'm adjusting. And you're going to learn that that's one of the key points that I want to teach you about the metabolism. You're going to know how the metabolism works after this lecture, and then you're going to learn how to do and deal with it in the future lectures. Here's the first thing, and the second thing, by the way. So that's the first reason I want to tell you this. And the second thing I want to tell you is the following. And this you should write down right now. Circle it, star it, highlight it, do whatever you need to do, then post it on your refrigerator. My plan for success is not your plan for success. You are going to have to figure this out for yourself. I don't care what you want to whine, kick, scream, yell, tell me I'm a jerk because I'm telling you this. This is the only way it works. It's the only way it will ever work. You have got to figure out this yourself. Some of you are going to be eating more carbs, some less. Some of you will have to have fat in your diet. Some will have low fat. Everyone's going to be different. Some people, the rest-based living type stuff is going to be more important. Other people are going to have to work on their exercise. It is different. I'm going to teach you how to figure out those differences, and you're going to have to ply that trade, becoming a detective, not a dieter. Okay? A detective, not a dieter. Now, the first thing you need to know if you're going to understand your metabolism is the following. There's a question here. What is your metabolism actually designed for? What is it designed for? Guess what, guys? It is not designed to meet your vanity needs. It is not designed to be like, oh, Jade wants to look good and have a six pack. Sure, I'll do that for him. No, the metabolism could care less if you have a six pack or not. It could care less if you could fit into, a size 2 or a size 6 or whatever. It doesn't care what your thought process is around whether you lose weight or not. That's not what it does. What it does is it is involved in your survival. That's all it cares about. Write that down too. The metabolism doesn't care about whether you burn fat. It's not concerned with your vanity, about whether you look good or not in the mirror. It is only concerned with your survival. It reacts and adapts based on the threats it sees out there in the environment. Now, when we think threat, you guys have probably heard this. You're probably sick of hearing it, right? But when everyone thinks threat, they're like, oh, every time I listen to a webinar or some buddy talking about nutrition and metabolism, they always bring up the saber-toothed tiger that's lurking behind the woods that's going to jump out and cause the fight or flight response, right? Well, you know what? Let's not even go there, okay? But that is true to a degree. We are designed for that. But what I mean by survival is anything that throws your metabolism out of balance. Your metabolism wants to get back into balance. It is a balance seeking machine. It is always trying to get you back to balance. Now, let's think about some of the things that are the new saber-toothed tiger in our society that may surprise you. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about a formula that you think, and it's absolutely wrong. And we have to get this out of the way because this is what I mean by the metabolism is not all about what you think you want. It is all about balancing the stress in your life. Here's what you think. Decrease calories or carbs or fat or whatever it is, or gluten, the new thing, right? Everything, it's always about stopping something, right? If it's not calories, then it's carbs. If it's not carbs, then it's fat. If it's not fat, then it's gluten. If it's not that, it's all these toxins lurking out there somewhere that are going to blow your metabolism up, right? So you're supposed to stop a bunch of stuff, and then you're supposed to start doing a lot of exercise. You either need to train longer, harder, or more. This is what we think, right? And as a result of that, then you are supposed to lose weight. And that is not how it works. This is what the metabolism does. The metabolism says, look, I have to balance the amount of energy I'm putting out with the ability to recover. I need to look at how much food I'm getting in versus how much food I'm burning. I need to look at how much sleep I'm getting and all this stuff. In other words, it's trying to balance and catch up its energy output with its recovery, rest and recovery, right? That's the thing that it's trying to do. Now, that then decreases metabolic stress on the metabolism. And when the metabolism has this metabolic balance, then you start to lose weight as a natural outcome of that. So think about it for a minute, right? If you're sitting there trying to decrease calories, carbs, this, that, and the other thing, or trying to exercise more and trying to lose weight and it doesn't work like that, and I'm telling you, hey, look, the metabolism is going to balance you. It's all about balance. It wants to seek balance. If you get your body in balance, metabolic stress will decrease and you will lose weight for good. Now, Here I'm going to slow down a little bit because I brought this up several times. This idea of metabolic stress, this idea of balancing stress, this idea of the new saber-tooth tiger. What does that look like? Well, this is what we think it looks like, right? But this is only part of it. We think it's this person who's stressed out, in a hurry, too much to do, overworked, overwhelmed. We don't realize that it also looks like this. And if you can't get this drilled through your head, you are in big trouble. I'm going to say this again. It also looks like this. In other words, the metabolism doesn't care how much you love Zumba. It doesn't care how much Jade loves to go to the gym and do crazy weightlifting stuff. It doesn't care if you want to go run triathlons and things like that. It doesn't care about that. All it cares is that stuff stressing it out. And if it is, if you are putting out too much energy and not recovering, then that is a stress to the body, and that is going to hinder your goals. Write that down. That is exactly what is happening. And hopefully that makes sense to you. And guess what? Guess what else? This same thing. Same thing. You think, oh, well, I should decrease calories. I heard it increases my longevity. Oh, I should decrease calories because I'm overweight. Or, oh, I should cut back on this and that and the other thing. Well, that's all well and good until it goes too far. And guess what? That's a stress to your metabolism. What does your metabolism do when it's under stress? Well, it certainly doesn't help you burn fat. This is another form of stress. Now you might say, Jade, what the hell are you talking about? This is a perfectly happy mother with her newborn, right? This is a profound source of stress. To understand metabolic stress, you have to stop thinking that it's about depression and anxiety. This is a woman who is the most happy she's ever been. Maybe it's a lifelong dream. It's her first kid, yet she's been sleep deprived. Her baby has been robbing her body of nutrients for the last 9 months. Her life, anyone who's had a baby, now I haven't, okay, but everyone I've talked to says, Jade, don't do it. You wouldn't believe how your life changes. It's wonderful, but oh my God, dude, your life is completely flipped upside down. You can't possibly imagine what happens. This is stress. I don't care how happy you are. It's still stress. That's stress. And this is stress. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to take care of the kids. Got to answer the phone. Got to do my work. Got to come home and clean the house. Got to do all that stuff is stress. And we just think that, oh, we are supposed to do that like a machine. What are you going to do? What's your car going to do? A machine that's not nearly as complex as the human body. What's your car going to do if you just go tearing down the street, slamming on the brakes, running into stuff, backing up, going forward, speeding down the highway, just going crazy? How long do you think your car is going to last before you have to take it into the shop? Not that long, right? Well, that's what happens to your metabolism as well. So the first thing you need to write down for this talk, for your education, is the metabolism does not care about my weight loss goals. What it cares is, am I recovering adequately from stress, and is it bringing me back to balance? So I want you now to rank your level of balance from 1 to 10 in life and in all those areas. And I guarantee you, 10 being you're all out of balance, 1 being you have complete balance. If you're at a 10 in any of these areas where just things are just crazy or you're doing too much, I can guarantee you are struggling with your weight loss goals. Think about me in medical school. Think about me starting my business. Was I exercising? Hell yeah, I was. Was I trying to eat well? I was spending way more time trying to eat well then than I do now. And guess what? I was out of balance. Does that make sense to everybody? I want to just kind of see where you are. Are you with me? Are you understanding? Raise your hand if you do. Raise your hand if you do. Raise your hand if you're like, Jade, I get it. I understand. This is making sense and I need to do something about it. Because guess what? If you don't get this part, if you don't buy in here and understand that this is what it's all about, you're not going to be able to learn what to do about it. Okay, you can put your hands down. Now, the first thing that we need to do then, if we know that, is we need to say, okay, Jade, guys, all of us, right? If we are going to understand this and we say, okay, we kind of can understand how the metabolism works now, but That's a little different than what we've been told, because we've been told that it's just a calculator, right? We've been told that it's just addition and subtraction. Now we're starting to understand, like, wow, this thing is a complex machine that is adaptive and reactive and changeable to everything we do. And therefore, we need to get a handle on this, right? We need to understand, well, what can we do? What do we need to understand about the metabolism to help it get us to balance, to help it get us to a less stress? Well, that's what I'm getting ready to share with you. Now, throughout my education, throughout my years of doing this, I have seen 5 patterns emerge relative to the metabolism. They are so important to my work and are, I think, what is solely responsible for me having the reputation that I do in being able to help people get their lives back and their bodies back, that I have developed these 5 things and call them laws. Now, I call them laws because they have been the key thing that has helped me help all the people that I have helped. I am going to teach you these things today, and they are going to end up becoming the staple of you making sure that you can understand your body. If you understand these 5 laws, you will understand every bit of information you hear out there in the blogosphere, every bit of information you read in the news, everything you see on New York Times wellness page and CNN and Fox News and all this health information and Dr. Oz and all this stuff coming at you. If you understand these 5 laws, you are going to be able to understand, does that apply to me, or is it nonsense, or does it only apply to some people? How do I fit this information in based on my unique metabolism? You will understand. So let's get started with these. Let's give an overview of what these 5 laws are. Law 1, I call it the law of metabolic compensation. Law 2 is the law of metabolic multitasking. Law 1 says that if you do a thing to your metabolism, it will push back against you. It's not a calculator or a chemistry set. It's a boomerang. It's a seesaw. It is a pendulum. It is anything that is adaptive and reactive, a thermostat. The law of metabolic multitasking says that unless you're a beginner, the body does not like to be burning fat and building muscle. It either is in a burning mode or a building mode. The law of metabolic efficiency says there are things that you do that make your body more efficient at storing fat, and there are things that you do that make your body less efficient at storing fat. This is very, very similar to going down and filling up your car, and then the way you drive, making your car burn less fuel or more fuel. Now, in the case of your body, unlike your car, you want your body to be inefficient at storing fat and more efficient at burning it, okay? Law 4 is the law of metabolic individuality, which says what applies to one person may or may not apply to you. And law 5 is the law of psychic entropy. A lot of people get confused because they're like, psychic entropy, what's that mean? Psychic meaning mind, and entropy meaning the loss of energy, the drain of mental energy. This is basically the willpower law, which basically says willpower is a battery. It is not something you have or don't have. Make sense? Let's get into each of these laws now so you can understand them. I'm going to try to make some of this technical information as easy as possible for you. Law 1, the law of metabolic compensation. It essentially says your metabolism is a seesaw. It is not a calculator. You eat less, what does your body do? It increases cravings and hunger. You exercise more, what does your body do? It increases hunger and cravings. You get sleep deprived, what does your body do? It increases hunger and cravings. You starve yourself, what's your body do? It decreases its metabolic rate. In other words, it's going to react in the opposite direction to every single thing you do. And the idea that you don't know that and don't have a way to deal with that is the very reason why you can go on a diet, do great for 10 days, and then be ravished and go on a Burger King binge for the next 2 months. You know what I'm talking about. This is how the metabolism works. It is a seesaw, right? And here is the way it is. You eat less, you exercise more. What happens? Hunger, energy, cravings. Hunger goes up, cravings go up, energy becomes low and unpredictable. Guess what? Your metabolic rate declines and you get weight regain, except for one problem. you get weight regain plus some. In other words, what we now know in the world of weight loss research is that many of us, and you're going to start hearing about this more and more, are starting to see that dieting by itself is one of the causes of obesity. In other words, dieting, because of the compensatory mechanisms it puts into play, may be the very reason you are having a problem. That is earth shattering, isn't it? When you think about it, you mean to tell me the fact that I went on a diet is the very reason I gained this excess weight and the very reason the weight is now harder to burn than it used to be? Yes, that's exactly what I am telling you. The first law tells you that. Now, here's the only thing I want you to know about the first law right now. You might say to me, Jade, okay, I get this whole metabolic stress issue. Jade, I get that the metabolism is a boomerang or a seesaw. It's going to push back against me. But how do I know when it's doing it? The best way is to look at hunger, energy, and cravings. To think, is my heck in check? Hunger, energy, and cravings, HEC. If your heck is out of check, then your metabolism is in compensation mode and you are in big trouble. Now, I want to give you guys an interesting thing to think about. Isn't it interesting that the couch potato, the person who sits at home, eats like crazy, and doesn't exercise, is hungry all the time and has cravings all the time and energy is in the toilet? While at the same time, the person who is out exercising constantly, not eating anything at all, also has hunger and cravings and their energies in the toilet. Why? How can the couch potato and the extreme dieter, the eat less, exercise more person, how come they both have their heck so out of check? The reason their metabolism is under stress. If your heck is out of check, you have no chance, zero, to getting where you want to get to. That's the only thing I want you to know right now about law one. Heck in check, metabolism is balanced. The seesaw is level. Heck out of check, you're in trouble. Make sense? That's all you need to know. We're going to get to the rest of this in the rest of the trainings. Now, law number 2, metabolic multitasking. What's this mean? Well, here's what it means. Here's an overweight person. Now, if they go on a diet, right? Eat less, exercise more. Let's do the standard one. You're going to start going, you're going to go run a marathon. You're going to start marathon training and you're going to eat less. What's going to happen to you? You're going to burn fat. Yes, you will. You'll burn fat. You create a calorie deficit, you're going to burn fat. But guess what? The body doesn't like to multitask. So it's not going to keep your muscle on you too. What's going to happen is you're going to burn muscle too. And you're going to get a skinny fat look. Now, on the other end of the equation is this, me. Go back to that picture of me. I'm working out like crazy. I'm getting fat as hell. Yeah, sure, I have muscle, but I'm getting muscle fat, right? In other words, some other people are like, oh, well, don't go run. Go lift weights and eat more protein. Okay, that's fine, but if you don't create a calorie deficit, you're just going to build muscle underneath a layer of fat, and you're going to look like the Pillsbury Doughboy, just like me. And so this is what most people are doing. Most people are in this situation where they're doing things in a way, eating less and exercising more, running for miles and eating like a bird, and they end up skinny fat. They end up a little bit smaller, but flabby. Not what you want. That's not the swimsuit body we want, and not really a healthy metabolism either. On the other end of the equation, you got people like what was happening to me, where I wasn't burning any fat, and I was training with a whole bunch of weights and looking like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Again, not what we want, not a healthy metabolism either. That's the law of multitasking. The body's going to burn fat and burn muscle. The body's going to build fat and build muscle. It is very difficult to do both. Now, to get this lean effect, you have to be very, very smart in your approach. You have to be smarter in your approach. So getting skinny fat is easy. Getting muscle fat is pretty easy. And you see this all over. This is everyone you see hanging out in gyms and running on the road. I see it every day. I go out for a drive. I see the runners. They're all looking skinny fat. I see a few who look very fit, right? You will see that because we are all different, but they're in the minority. And then I go to the gym and I see all these people who look puffy as hell. Now I see a few people who are really lean and fit, but again, they're in the minority. Getting lean is hard to do. Now, here is why. Because most people spend their time in these red zones. They spend their time eating more and exercising less, being a dieter, and then they can't maintain that because of metabolic compensation, so they swing back to the couch potato. So they're dieter, couch potato, dieter, couch potato, dieter, couch potato. This is what happens, right? And so what happens along the way is when you're the dieter, you're losing fat, you're losing muscle. And then when you are the couch potato, you're gaining fat and gaining muscle, except for one thing. You're gaining fat at a much faster rate. And science shows this. You're gaining fat at a much faster rate. So what you're doing by going back and forth from dieter to couch potato, dieter to couch potato, dieter to couch potato, is you are making yourself fatter and less muscular in the long run. To do this right, you need to take a different approach. The blue zone, eat less, exercise less, or eat more, exercise more. The blue zone, that is the people in Europe. Think about the European model, or your ancestors, your great grandparents. They didn't go out and run for miles. They didn't spend all this time in the gym doing CrossFit and crazy stuff like that. They just moved every day because they had to, and they did not eat much. And perhaps the best bodies on the planet belong to athletes who eat more and exercise more. No athlete in their right mind is going to start exercising like crazy and then cut their calories down. They're not going to do it. The blue zone here is where you have the best chance of burning fat and building muscle at the same time, or at least maintaining muscle. And I'll tell you a secret about this. You have to cycle these. Why? Because when you take into account metabolic compensation law 1 and you bring in metabolic multitasking law 2, what you find immediately is that anything you do, even if you're in this blue zone, your body will eventually adapt and you're going to have to change things up. You're going to have to change things up. Okay? In other words, you can't just do the same thing over and over. I'll give you guys a hint here, actually. I'm going to tell you a secret. You know why the eat less, exercise more approach really fails? Why it really, really fails? The major reason it fails is not because it's the worst thing on the planet. It's just that that's the only tool people have. In other words, they try it for 10 days and it'll usually work. But then the body compensates and says, ha ha, I've adapted. I got you. Ha ha ha. And then what do? You say, okay, I'll just keep doing the same thing. And then the metabolism goes, what is this guy, an idiot? I just told him I adapted. My heck went out of check. I just told him I'm not responding anymore. And he's doing the same thing. This dude's an idiot. And that's what people do. They're like, oh, that didn't work. I'll do the same thing again. Oh, that didn't work. Let me try it again. Oh, that didn't work. Let me try it again. Oh, that diet led to me going on a Dorito binge for 2 months. But guess what? I'll do it again. It's insanity. So what you want to be doing is getting savvy about moving back and forth and cycling the diet, having periods of time where you're exercising a lot and eating a lot, having other periods of time where you're kind of relaxing and living this rest-based style. I'll give you an example from my world. During the week, usually, I will be in an eat less, exercise less state, not exercising a whole lot. During the weekend, I'll really ramp up my exercise and my food intake goes up. Every now and then, when I go on vacation or something like that, I might be in an eat less, exercise more state because I'm just doing a bunch of stuff, hiking and biking and doing all that kind of stuff. And then Christmas is coming up. I guarantee you for a little while, I'll be in the eat more, exercise less state for a little while. But because I'm not in any of those states for any length of time, my metabolism adapts naturally and it actually becomes a beneficial thing. That's the law of multitasking. You need to understand that. Law 3 is the law of metabolic efficiency, which essentially says the following. There are efficiency factors, okay? This is important. I really want to slow down here for you guys. Satiation, hunger, is an efficiency factor. What you want is you want to eat the least amount of food possible to suppress hunger. That sends a favorable signal to your metabolism. It says, hey, metabolism, don't be stressed out. We got plenty of food. You know that because the hunger signal to your brain is basically saying, hey, we got plenty of food. Don't stress. Well, what kinds of foods create that satiation effect? What kind of foods create that satiation effect? Foods that have protein, fiber, and water, and then starch and fat last. Starch and fat last. Now, there's this big thing out there right now that always makes me laugh, that people being like, oh, don't, it's fat, eat fat. Fat will make you, end up making you less hungry. No, it won't. The research doesn't show that at all, nor does my clinical experience. Fat by itself does not do that. Now, if you add fat to protein or fat to starch, it does. But fat alone does not do that for the vast majority of people. Lean protein does. Lean protein does. Fiber without starch in it does. It creates bulk. It is the most satiating. And things with water in it. Just like with fat, if you add water to anything, it satiates you. Add water to, it's the reason why a potato, when it's filled with water, is much more satiating than a bowl of Cheerios, because water is satiating. Okay, so you want to be thinking about, when I'm eating, I want my food to be very bulk heavy: protein, lean proteins, fibers, and water. Now, I'll get to fat in a minute and starch in a minute, because they're very, very important. They're not about satiation, but they are about satisfaction. Two different things. Satiation is about hunger. Satisfaction is about cravings. You ever have that time where you sit down and you're like, okay, Jade, I know, lean protein and vegetables. Well, how come eating nothing but chicken breast and broccoli doesn't work in the long run? Because it might fill you up, but by the end of that meal, what are you thinking? You might be full, but you're not dessert full, are you? If someone puts down a cheesecake, you'll eat that, won't you? And that's because you didn't hit the satisfaction factor. So when you eat, when you're thinking about efficiency, you want a lot of bulk, lean protein, lots of fiber without starch. This is basically a huge salad, chicken breast and broccoli, basically. And then you want plenty of water. Well, you're getting that in the vegetables, and you can drink the water too. No, it does not dilute your digestive secretions. That's a whole fallacy and a myth. You want to drink water with your foods. And then what you want to do is you want to add just enough starch and fat according to your metabolism to make that meal satiating. So for me, what I have discovered is, if I don't have a baked potato or some crackers or something with my meal, I end up eating 500 to 1,000 calories more each night. Why? Because if I just have chicken and broccoli, I'm full, but I'm not dessert full. And next thing you know, I'm going to be eating something that is sweet, or running out and trying to get some ice cream or something. This happens to all of you. Raise your hand if this happens to you. Raise your hand if you know exactly what I'm talking about. Full versus dessert full. Almost every hand is going up, right? Almost every hand is going up. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about here. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And by the way, here's what I want to challenge. This is just an aside real quick. I'm talking about some things right now that I bet you are challenging your biases big time. You may have gotten mad. That's not true, Jade. Fat. I know fat is the answer, because I read it on so-and-so's blog. And also, you might be thinking, I heard this, and this about water diluting secretions. All I ask you to do is understand where your biases, your extreme nutrition biases, are hindering your results. What I am giving you is, I am giving you not my personal experience, although that's part of it. I'm giving you thousands of people I've worked with, and I know the research, okay? And the research does not support fat being the most satiating nutrient. Protein, it does, okay? Fat, starch, salt, sugar, those things will certainly deal with the craving aspect. You need to understand this from an efficiency point of view. And then there's one other thing here relative to efficiency. What is that? That is how efficient you're going to store the fuel. Well, guess what? You store the most efficiently. Again, the fat fanatics are going to get mad at me here, but fat is the number one. It's stored faster than sugar and starch. Sorry, it is. If you don't know that, then you don't understand biochemistry, and you're listening to blogs instead of the science. Fat is stored faster. The body has to do less with it. Yes, starch and sugar can be stored pretty quickly as well. Protein is essentially stored last because of their thermogenics. Now, nothing is going to be stored if you don't get into a calorie excess. Nothing will be stored. You can eat Twinkies all day. How many guys remember the Twinkie diet, right? The guy who went on the Twinkie diet, the junk food diet, or the Starbucks diet. It doesn't matter if you're eating nothing but Twinkies all day. And if you have a calorie deficit, your body is going to burn fat. It doesn't matter if you're eating broccoli all day. If you're in a calorie deficit, or if you're in a calorie excess, you're going to store fat. The problem is people can't, unless you're an elephant, you're not going to be able to overeat just broccoli and chicken breasts. People overeat sugar, fat, starch, and salt because they're so craving inducing. They both suppress cravings, but they also can cause cravings. So those are going to be the foods that get you in trouble. That being said, fat is essential. It's healthy. You need it. But guess what? So is starch. And so when you think about efficiency, think about what foods can I be eating to dramatically quell hunger? What foods can I be eating in small amounts that will shut down cravings but not cause me to go into excess cravings? And what foods am I eating and how am I putting them together in a way where I can eat as much as I can until I'm satisfied but still be in a calorie deficit? Does that make sense? So in other words, protein, fiber, water, fill your plates up with salads, chicken, beef, steak, fish, all that kind of stuff, and then add just enough fat and or starch, because some people might just be like, hey, Jade, I feel great if I do, a piece of bison meat with avocado and sliced tomato and a little bit of bacon. I'm a champ. I feel great. My hunger's gone. My cravings are suppressed. And if I add any starch to that, I get cravings for sweets. Then guess what? You just answered your own question. Do that. That keeps heck in check. Other people will be like, Jade, I can't do that. If I have fat, that's a problem for me. I'll tell you guys this about me. If I wake up in the morning and I have bacon and eggs, I will be craving things all day long. I don't do it. I know other people who I live with, my brother, others, my sister-in-law, that they do that diet, they do that meal and they feel like a champ and it's great for them. So you have to honor your individuality, which brings me to the next point in just a minute. Actually, you got one more slide here because you might say, well, Jade, what about efficiency of exercise? Well, again, it comes down to this. There is nothing wrong with running. The idea that running makes you fat is it's not based in science at all. Running does not make you fat. Running burns fat. The problem is running can create hunger and craving responses as well. It is notorious for doing that in the research. You go out for a long run, and guess what happens? Typically, not for everybody, by the way, because we're all different, but typically hunger and cravings will rise as a result of that the longer you go. Also, you definitely burn calories and fat when you're running, but the burning stops after the run usually. That's not the same for weight training. Weight training doesn't burn as many calories during the workout, but burns more after and doesn't have as much of a hunger and craving response. So does that mean you should only do weight training and not do cardio? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It means you're going to have to find the balance between each. How much cardio can I do to burn fat but not throw my hunger and cravings out of whack? And how much resistance training do I need to do to keep my body tight and firm and hold on to my muscle, right? And I'll tell you another one. The only type of exercise, one thing that I discovered for all my patients long before I relented and did it myself, is slow walking. Why walking? Because walking is cortisol reducing. It's the only exercise, by the way, other than things like Tai Chi and restorative yoga, but it's one of the only things that is easy to do, that is incompatible with eating, unless you're one of these people who likes to walk around with a big gulp in your hand, and it lowers cortisol and stress hormones, it does not, for the vast majority of people, cause compensatory hunger and craving reactions. So that's what you want to be thinking about when it comes to efficiency, those things. Now, there are some other concerns with efficiency, and I bring these up because these things are being blown so out of proportion right now in the blogosphere and things like that. For some people, their gut bugs, their probiotics, this guy up here on the left, it has a profound effect. And actually what we're finding is that out of all the things you're hearing about now about probiotics and good bacteria and all that kind of stuff, this may be the most important factor. We may find that this is the thing to help us with metabolism. But how do we get it done? Typically by eating better. Some of the things I'm talking about, you change these guys for good. What about food allergies, gluten, and this and that? Yes, gluten is a huge issue for a subset, a minority of the population. It's way more than we used to think, but it's not for most people. So for most people, should they be cutting out gluten? No, they shouldn't. You need to know if you have a gluten issue, and that's pretty easy to do for some people. Some people it's tricky, and that's why they come and see people like me, and I can help them work through that. Toxins in the environment. When we say toxins, let's say what we're talking about. We're talking about heavy metals, things like cadmium, mercury. We're talking about those things. We're talking about persistent organic pollutants, things like pesticides and those kinds of things. The body for most people deals with those things in a very healthy way. And it's funny, right? I put this lady here with alcohol because here's one of the funniest things I think. It just challenge your bias when you're learning about metabolism and focus on what's important. Isn't it interesting that we have people saying, don't do that, eat organic, don't, pesticides will make you fat, they'll do all these things, and they may for some people, but then they're drinking 2 glasses of wine every night when we know that wine and alcohol is a known toxin. It's one of the best studied toxins on the planet. So understand that, our biases and the way we do this makes little sense sometimes. If you're going to be worried about organic food versus pesticide broccoli, I would rather see you do a bucket load of pesticide broccoli versus drinking alcohol every night. Guess which one is a known toxin and there's more research showing that it's going to be toxic to your system? Well, it's alcohol. Okay, it's alcohol. So we need to make sense of this stuff. We need to make sense of this. I would rather see you eating pesticide-laden broccoli than an organic cookie any day of the week. And you need to start thinking about this when we're talking about efficiency. Does that make sense? All right, last one. Last two, law of metabolic individuality. This means you have to become a detective. You need to think about your individual metabolic expression, right? Some of you are like, but Jade, fat is the only thing that satisfies me. Then you know that that's what works for you. Other people are like, Jade, I got to have starch. Other people are like, Jade, but I do running and it keeps me lean and I don't get cravings. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, then do running, right? In other words, do what works for you. Know how your body responds to stress. I told you, the metabolism, right, is a stress sensor. Everyone's level of stress is a little different. Some people go for a 30-minute jog and it registers as a profound stress. Other people who are better trained can go for a 2-hour run and feel great, right? You also need to understand your psychological sensitivities. If you get stressed out, if you're going through a romantic breakup, if you get overloaded at work with stuff, does that cause you to eat less or eat more? Does that put you in a balanced state or an unbalanced state? In what ways is it throwing your metabolism out of balance? Then you're going to need to deal with that. Maybe you need to go to work out, or maybe you need to meditate, or maybe you need to call up your significant other or a good friend and talk about it. Psychological sensitivities are huge. And then the next one is personal preferences. This might be the most important thing on the planet when it comes to weight loss. Too often, here's what we're doing. I read this book, right? I read this book and the book said, don't do that, do this. And then I did that and it didn't work. And the reason you did that and it didn't work is because you didn't do what worked for you. You just wanted a quick fix, off the shelf food list that was not designed for you. And most of these diets, what they do is they take this approach. They basically take the do not eat this approach. Instead, what you should be doing is saying, listen, what are the foods that I love that I do not want to be without? And what you want to do is think about how many of those foods can you eat every single day while still getting results. That's a very different approach. That's why personal preference matters. If you don't like to lift weights, then guess what? You're going to lean more towards cardio. Will you have to probably do some weight training if you want to get the results? Yes, but you do the bare minimum. If you're someone who loves weight training but doesn't like to run, guess what? You're probably going to have to do some cardio. Maybe you could do some CrossFit-like stuff that integrates the cardio in that, but you're going to have to do some cardio. It's just that you can do more weight training. So we balance this based on our lives, right? Based on what we like. It's just like this. I mean, you have a significant other that loves painting and art, but you hate going to museums. Instead, you love going out and hiking and biking. Well, guess what? You're probably going to do a lot of hiking and biking, but every once in a while, you're going to have to compromise and go to the art and museums. It's the same thing with dealing with your metabolism. Does that make sense? I hope it does, because that's the deal. So the idea is becoming a detective, understanding that it's not about no carbs. It's about the right amount of carbs. It's not about no fat. It's about the right amount of fat. It's not about no cardio. It's about finding the right amount. It's not about lifting weights a particular way. It's about finding the right amount. Not too much, not too little, just right. Goldilocks, metabolic detective. This is what you need to do. And one of the biggest things I can tell you as we go through this training for metabolism school is the following. This is where you will get crushed. This is why things won't work for you. This is where you have to let go of your biases. I'll tell you my story. Remember that my fat picture that I showed you? Guess what happened to me? I had an extreme bias at the time that vegetarianism was the best way to go. An extreme bias. I was a militant vegetarian. And guess what? I'm kicking myself now, but because I was, and I thought soy protein was the healthiest thing on the planet, and all I did was engage in confirmation bias, which means I never went and looked at the information that said it wasn't. I only looked at the information that said it was. And I believe, now I can't confirm this, but I believe that was a big, huge part of me becoming hypothyroid, because as I looked later, I realized that soy protein for some people can be a thyroid issue. Now, isn't that funny? Ask yourself this: is your strict adherence to a paleo diet actually helping you or hurting you? Is your strict adherence to a vegetarian diet, your religious fanatic, adherence to your biases, are they actually helping you or hurting you? Are you open to trying something new? I think you need to be if you're not getting the results. You need to be. You need to give up your biases and start becoming a detective. The last law is the following, and then we're going to get into questions. It is the law of psychic entropy. It is the law of willpower. Why is it that we crave chocolate, fat, sugar, and all those kinds of things, and apples? Have you guys ever had this? Let me tell you a story about this. There have been days, and I know everybody's probably had this. There have been days. Now, I love chocolate, and typically if it's there, even now, I'll eat it. But there have been days where I'm just feel balanced. I feel good. I got a workout in. I slept. I went for a walk, and I come home and there's an apple sitting there, and I know I have chocolate in the cupboard. And guess what I go for? The apple. So why is it that sometimes we can easily say no and other times we can't, right? It's almost like we get possessed. And it's not that we're possessed, it's the following. It's that willpower is not something you have or don't have. Willpower is like a battery. And on those days when you have not charged up your battery in the right way, on those days where you've pushed metabolic stress too far, those are the days when you're not going to be able to say no. So you might say, well, Jade, what kinds of things will drain my willpower battery? Well, these kinds of things: self-criticism, self-restraint, stress and negative motion, anything, thinking and learning, self-editing, low blood sugar, sleep deprivation, over-exercising, under-eating. These things are huge. But notice here I focused a lot on what's going on in your brain. Overwork and overwhelm, over-exercising, over. I'll say it again, over. That's what we do, right? We overwork, we overwhelm, we keep going, we do this and that. That's our way in our culture in the Western world a lot of times. And guess what? There's a reason why then you come home, sit on the couch, and you can't stop reaching your hand into the popcorn, or you can't stay away from the 3 glasses of wine. The reason why is because your willpower battery is burnt to shreds. Now, what charges it up? What charges it up? Usually the opposite. Self-acceptance, gratitude, sleep, naps, meditation. How many people come home from work and take a nap? Probably nobody. How many people have a meditative practice? How many people get 8 to 9 hours of sleep? These things are critical. R&R activities. What do I mean by R&R activities? Rest and recovery activities. Foam rolling, massage, hanging out in the spa, hot water baths, those kinds of things. TV and computer. Now, this is interesting. I want to stop here a minute because notice how I said TV and computer drain the willpower battery, and then I said they also can charge the willpower battery. This has a lot to do with what you're watching. Are you watching funny movies? These things can charge you up. Are you watching educational things, motivational things? They can charge you up. Are you watching sitcoms and things like that that just drain you? It's very different. And this is based on research. Creative pursuits, sitting down, painting, writing, these things charge you up, charge up your battery. Loved ones and pets, reading and learning. Sometimes you'll see stress and positive emotions. Sometimes you're going to see, well, Jade, it seems odd. Some thinking and learning, right? That shows up in both places. That's because very much like exercise done enough charges you up. Exercise taken too far drains the willpower battery. A lot of these things are like that. Okay, makes sense. A lot of these things are like that. So let's wrap this up. Let's wrap this up as your first training, because I want you to get key points, and I went fast because there's a lot of information. So now what I want you to do is take out your pens, take out your scrap pieces of paper. Let's go through what you learned and what you need to learn moving forward so that you can make the most out of Metabolism School. Are you guys ready? Raise your hand if you're ready to kind of go through this, just so I can see who's still with me. Good. Damn, you guys are good. All right, a lot of people still here. Almost everybody's still on the call. So we learned a lot, okay? Now, the trick is when you learn a lot, information is not the same thing as learning, right? We want to take information and turn it into knowledge. Information plus learning equals knowledge. Now, once we have knowledge, we have to add on experience. Knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. So this is just the beginning. You can't expect to sit on a webinar like this, get shoved a bunch of information down your gullet, and then you go away and be like, that was great. Now I'm going to run off into the sunset and live happily ever after. No, you won't. Now you have to do some work. Now you have to do some work. You have to take responsibility for what we did. Now I am going to do my part and try to synthesize in one slide what you learned. So screenshot this slide and understand that right now you're not supposed to know everything. This is the first of 3 steps. So here's what you need to know. First of all, trust me on this, by the way, guys. This is all you need to know. We got 2 other webinars coming. You need to learn to recognize metabolic compensation. Learn to recognize metabolic compensation. How do you know? If heck is in check, you're not in compensation. If heck is out of check, you are in compensation. If you are in metabolic compensation, you better change things around and make sure you get yourself back into balance. Otherwise, you're going to suffer weight regain. The other thing is make sure you cycle your approach. If you're doing eat less, exercise more, it's not that that is bad, except that you can't do it forever. You do it until what? Until you feel the body compensating, and then you slightly adjust your approach to some degree. Okay? So recognize metabolic compensation, cycle your approach. Learn to know when the metabolism is out of balance, and learn to adjust when it goes out of balance is all we're saying here. The next thing is when it comes to eating, now we're going to get into the individual aspects of this, but when it comes to eating, everybody, you want to focus on lean protein, fiber, and water first. In other words, the base of what you eat should be protein and vegetables. Protein and vegetables and lots of water. Then what you want to do is add just enough according to your knowledge about your metabolism, just enough fat and starch or salt to stop the cravings. Okay, that's how you want to think about it. Think about this big plate of vegetables and lean protein. Eat all of that and then add the avocado slices or the walnuts or the rice or the pasta or those kinds of things. Enough, just enough, not too much, but just enough to get the perfect scenario. I know all of you on this line know what it's like. There's been at least one time in your life where you've eaten a dinner and you've sat down afterwards and just like, wow, I feel great. I don't need anything else. I don't need dessert. That's when you got it right. Find that point. That's the third point. The next point is you want to focus on a lot of weight training because it's more efficient and just enough cardio and fun exercise. Zumba is great. Do it. But if you're not getting results, you're going to need to do a little less of that and a little more weight training. So there is the personal preference piece that comes in here. Weight training is going to be the most efficient exercise to do to keep your body fit and lean. It's also going to be the one that causes less compensatory reactions. But everyone is different. So you want to do enough of this. Just like with your plate, protein, fiber, water, enough starch and fat. Same with exercise. Lots of good quality weight training, enough of the cardio and fun stuff. I'll give you a hint here, by the way. Some of these metabolic conditioning workouts that Metabolic Effect has become famous for are some of the most efficient workouts out there because they get at both of these in a short time frame. Next, find, create, do what works for you. That is the number one rule. Find, create, do what works for you. Stop relying as much on people like me to tell you what to do and start relying more on yourself to find what works for you. I'm going to say that again. Stop relying so much on people like me to tell you what to do and start relying more on yourself to find what works for you. That is a key component here. Finally, get very savvy at building a big, well-charged willpower battery, which means paying very close attention to your lifestyle. Play with your kids. Does that charge up your battery? Fantastic. Hang out with your pets. Does that charge up your battery? Fantastic. Do all the things that charge up your battery. Go for a walk with your significant other. Does that charge you up? Is going to a big crowd at your family, over Christmas, is that going to charge you up or not? Okay. This doesn't mean become antisocial. If it doesn't, it just means know how much time to spend recuperating and know when you could put out your mental energy as well. Because guess what? That mental energy output, that emotional output you put out is directly involved in the willpower battery and will affect the metabolism. The metabolism registers that as a stress disturbance and it will impact your bottom line in terms of fat gain. Okay. So I'm going to leave this up for a second. Screenshot this. You are going to get the recording of this, but here's what you want to focus on. This is everything I said. If you don't want to worry about the 5 laws, oh, Jade, what was that law? What was that law? This is it. This is a summation of the 5 laws, these 6 points right here. Okay. Now, I'm going to take questions. So we went 10 minutes over, right? So that's not bad. I thought I might go a little bit longer, but now I'm going to answer your questions. So if you have a question for me, I'm going to answer as many as I can, but I don't know that we're going to get to all of them because there are a huge amount of people on this call, but I will try to do it, get as many as I can. So go ahead and begin asking your questions if you like, and I'm going to begin to read these and go through them. All right. So first question says, okay, so Jade, I heard that you should, this says, oh, so 2-week cycles are not the best. It's really up to me. Okay, so this is someone who's asking, who's probably heard, and this is a great point. I'm glad this question came up because it helps illustrate a larger point. In our book, Lose Weight Here, by the way, if you haven't gotten that book and you want a book that covers all the 5 laws, that's the book to get. It's a book called Lose Weight Here. My brother Keone and I wrote that book. It is our second book. It is the book that you'd want to get if you're interested in this lecture and you want to go even more in depth. But in that book, we talked about a good idea is to cycle the diet every 2 weeks. Change up your approach. But the truth of the matter is the real best way is to do it according to when you go out of balance. The reason we said 2 weeks is because we know that people want a definitive answer. So we just said in the book, hey, just do it whenever you feel your heck go out of check. That would confuse a lot of people. So what we said in the book is do it every 2 weeks. And then later on in the book, we said, by the way, you really should just do it when your heck goes out of check. So typically people will fall into metabolic compensation. And this is, I can say this with certainty, you guys, that I've done this so much in clinical practice that it really does come down to this. It's typically 4 to 10 days. Most people won't get past 2 weeks on being on any one dietary regime before their metabolism starts to compensate. So it's typically 4 to 10 days. Now, I'll give you a hint here. Compensation happens because of other things too. Sleep deprivation can cause it. Stress at work can cause it. But typically a dietary regime, all else being equal, diet and exercise, after about 4 to 10 days, the body will compensate. It doesn't mean you have to completely drastically change your approach. It just means you want to make tweaks. Maybe you raise the protein a little bit. Maybe you cut back on the cardio or weight training a little bit. You make little tweaks. Okay, so hopefully that makes some sense. Okay. All right. Let's see. Next question. What about red wine? Okay, so red wine. I don't know when these questions were coming in as I was talking, so I'm assuming you're wondering, is red wine a toxin? Red wine has some nice things in it, resveratrol and other things like that, but alcohol is a toxin to the liver. I mean, it just is. There is no way around that. Now, does that mean it is always bad? That's the thing. When we say toxin, okay, let's talk about this a little bit because it's a big pet peeve of mine. There are many toxins. There are toxins in the foods you eat every day. In a sense, food is a toxin, isn't it? You eat too much of it, it becomes a toxin. So a toxin is really defined by what it is and the amount of it. Obviously, someone who's a big obese person who's been eating food like crazy, food is a toxin. A diabetic, sugar is a toxin. Someone starving, sugar is a savior and not a toxin. Alcohol happens to be a toxin to everybody's system. It's one of the few things that impacts the human metabolism the same in everyone. That's why, if you drink too much, we can reliably tell and give you a DUI. Alcohol definitely messes with the liver, and red wine, as healthy as it can be, in some regards, has a negative impact on the liver. And what the research really says, despite what you've heard about people who drink red wines or live in other cultures, all those studies are built off population studies. They do other things besides drinking red wine, like hang out in big groups, socialize more, eat less. Most of the research we have, if you really look at double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, which are the clinical trials you want to look at, alcohol is not something that is healthy. Small amounts, though, are not really going to maybe hurt you so bad, but they're certainly not going to help you. So I'm not saying, hey, I drink wine every night, by the way, just so you guys know. And here's the reason why. Yes, do I know that it's potentially doing some things to my body? Yeah, but it also satisfies me, and I do other things to offset it. So it's not to say never drink wine again. I was just making the point, if you're going to be a toxin phobe, like those people out there in the world that are out there, all I'm doing is trying to get you to challenge your biases a little bit when it comes to some of these things. If you're going to be a toxin phobe and start yelling and screaming about pesticides, then you might want to look at your wine habit too. That's the only point I was making, not to tell you guys to stop drinking wine. Matter of fact, I think you should drink wine if, based on your personal preferences, it helps you eat appropriately. It helps you balance hunger, energy, and cravings. It keeps you from eating worse things like cheesecake and things like that. Okay. All right. Next question. So a lot of comments here. Yes, I love naps. It's been a big deal for me. Yes. Sit outdoors with my pets. Great. Um, Thank you, thank you. Okay, what part does fruit play? Okay, so what about fruit? Now, every time I get a question like this, I'm so happy for this question, by the way. So I hope you don't think that I'm lecturing you when I say this, because actually I'm excited you asked this question. But because this is what people do. They'll listen to a lecture like this and they'll automatically slip back into the dieter again. What about wine? What about fruit? What about this? Hey, Jay, can I have this? Can I have that? Can I have this? Can I have that? Whether you can have a thing or not depends on you and your metabolism. Fruit is high in water. Fruit is high in fiber. Two things that I told you balance hunger, energy, and cravings. That's one of the reasons why most people are not going to get fat off eating fruit. Most people are not going to get fat off eating apples and bananas. They're just not. People get fat typically off things like baked potatoes that are fully loaded, and pizza, and cheesecake, and fried chicken, and things like that, and shrimp fried rice. That's the stuff that really makes a difference. Why? Because go back to the law of efficiency. It is starch and fat mainly, which don't really fill you up as much as protein and fiber. And if taken to the extreme, they make you crave those foods. So fruit is definitely something you want to do. What I would say is you want lean meats, lots of vegetables, use fruits less than vegetables. So people say fruits and vegetables, absolutely, but more vegetables than fruit. Fruit is a very healthy thing to do. Very few people are going to get fat off of fruit. What about new you in 22 and their reliance on fat? This is such a good question, right? Because my good friend, Johnny Bowden, is somebody who has built a program around the idea of fat. Now, at least that's what the marketing says. But the truth of the matter is what he's actually doing, and what many of these programs out there will do, is they will take advantage of certain aspects of the metabolism. So if you go from an eat less, exercise more state, and we put you into a carb-free or calorie deficit state, you're going to lose weight for a while. You will, but then guess what happens? The metabolism compensates. All he's doing in New You in 22 is using that mechanism. He's actually adhering to these 5 laws. Truth of the matter is, you can do this in different ways. I like these kinds of programs, by the way. And the reason I like it is because they teach you about your metabolism. So the idea is, when you do a program like New You in 22, or you buy a new book, or you read something, most people do it and be like, well, it said this, so that must be the religion. That must be the right way. No, what you want to do is you want to follow it, use it, and then you may find at the end of it, that did not work for me. And so what you do is you find the pieces that worked, you throw out the rest. That's what you guys are doing, what you should be doing when you read books and go on programs. Stop being these, the types of people who are like, oh, well, if he says this must be the right way. There are an infinite number of ways and possibilities for us to get in shape and burn fat, because there are an infinite number of metabolisms and different personalities and different personal preferences involved. So whenever you do a program, it's not about that program being the right program. It's about finding what aspects of that program fit you. Remember that the slide I put with the 6 things, the creation, of your own formula. Stop listening to people like me tell you what to do and start listening to yourself and creating something that works for you. This is an example. Take an aspect of the program that works for you, throw out the rest. Great question. I know we are supposed to be our own detective, but do you have any good guidelines for where to start? Yes, you can start anywhere. And by the way, as part of this metabolism school, I am going to help you get started. I'm going to make a special offer to every single one of you as being in this. This offer won't go out to anyone else, but I am going to do a coaching program that's going to walk you through this for 12 weeks starting in the new year. And you will get a special deal on that. And I will tell you exactly where to start. But the bigger and better answer to that is you can start anywhere. Keone and I wrote 2 books. I would start with the Metabolic Effect Diet if you want a book, which is a cheap way to get involved, or the Lose Weight Here diet. That's where I would start. That gives you structure so you can learn some of the basics, but then allows you to be flexible and switch things up. And at least mine and Keone's book, our first book started that way. We teach you how to get started. We teach you some things about the metabolism. And then we always tell you, hey, now you're going to have to tweak. And by the way, I know that one of the things that is a big pet peeve of people who work with metabolic effect and hear me speak is this thing where they say, well, where did I start? I can't figure it out, this and that. Well, it's a journey. Look how long it took me to figure it out. But a lot of that journey comes with just finally, and because I fell prey to the same thing part of the longest part of the journey is just finally saying, you know what, I'm going to have to do this myself. Because what we do is we don't want to listen to that. We want the shortcut, and no shortcut exists. The only shortcut that exists in body change is realizing there is no shortcut. That's it. I'll say that again. The only shortcut that exists in body change is realizing there is no shortcut. Until you just say, all right, I'm going to have to figure this out myself and get to work and stop pretending there's going to be this magical meal plan that drops in front of me, the better off you're going to be. Thank you for that question. Is it ever okay to have starch and fat in the same meal along with along with your protein and fiber? Absolutely it is. In fact, most people will find, by the way, anyone who's on the line, raise your hand if a burger or pizza is the thing that satisfies you the most, right? That you're just like, oh, if I have a burger, then I'm just so satisfied. Why? Because you got protein, fiber, and starch, right? And fat all sort of mixed in there. Maybe a little bit low on the fiber, but you got protein, fat, and starch all mixed. And so what you want to do is, a burger is, way too much. It's way overdone. It's way heavy on the fat and starch, not as much on the protein and fiber. And so take that idea and construct your own meal. As a matter of fact, probably one of the best meals, I mean, you guys will probably trip out about this, but one of the best meals for most people I have found is either a big salad with chicken on top and like maybe, a little bit of starch, or steak, chicken, or fish, 2 servings of vegetables, 2 cups, and then a baked potato or rice. Now, people are like, well, I can't believe you're telling me eat a baked potato or rice. Well, I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you do what works for you. But here's the problem with rice and baked potato typically. If you look at the way Asians eat rice, they don't dump a bunch of salt on it and a pound of lard in it and call it rice. It's steamed rice. Same with baked potatoes. They don't put bacon and chives and all this stuff. So you have to realize that what I'm talking about is, chicken, steak, fish, broccoli, or green beans, something like that. And then a baked potato with a tiny pat of butter and a little bit of salt and a little pepper for dinner. That is going to be something that's going to be very useful for you. Yes, you can have fat, and yes, you can have starch, but some of you will have to realize that meal works perfect. Others will be like, wow, if I have any starch, I'm craving dessert, so I just want to do, fat and protein. And others of you will be like, well, I can't have either protein or fat. I need something like a pasta primavera or something like that. And you have to get past your biases. I don't care. I don't give a damn, guys, whether paleo is in right now. What I care about is that what you works for you, and you should be the same thing. Who cares what's in? If pasta primavera works for you, I don't care what guru told you gluten is going to make your head explode. You should be eating that. That is really the truth of this. And the reason I hope you're not offended by sort of my language. I use that language on purpose, by the way, just to be emphatic. I mean, I know it can come across as seeming a little gruff or maybe a little arrogant. That's really not what I'm trying to get across. I'm trying to get across to you in a forceful way, just so you, because sometimes it takes a lot to snap us out of it. You know what I mean? To snap us out of what we're doing, and we have to be kind of challenged. That's all I'm doing. I love the question. These are very, very good questions. Thank you. Okay, I'm really not in tune with my cravings. How many days should it take to discover what works? That's a great question in there, right? Wouldn't we like it to happen, sort of right away? I can tell you, once you start paying attention, you'll have a good idea about what is going on with you within the first 10 to 30 days, if you're paying very close attention. In other words, it'll kind of be like this. And I'll give you guys this distinction, so just because it's such a good question. You are suffering from cravings if you're having boredom eating, or you're wanting a taste for something. So if you're full is felt in the gut. That's satiation. That's hunger. It means you just feel full. Cravings are, if you're eating because you're bored, that's a craving. If you're eating because you need to taste something, like you just feel like something was off, you weren't satisfied, that's a craving. And so what you want to do is start getting in tune. I just finished that meal, and for some reason I'm wanting wine. Why is that? Or for some reason I'm wanting the taste of sweet. Why is that? Sometimes when that happens, by the way, is what you want to look at is we'll cover this in the next trainings. You want to look at adjusting the ratio of starch and fat. That's going to be a big piece of this. But for now, you're right. Just get in tune with the idea of what is happening. When am I having cravings, and when am I not? If I'm having cravings at 3 p.m. Every day, and that might mean I need to look at what I did for lunch, right? Or it might mean I need to adjust things a little bit. So that's exactly right. When being a detective, how can we be sure hormonal fluctuations aren't causing cravings rather than macros and stressors? Well, hormonal fluctuations are causing this. This is all hormonal. And so it's not just estrogen and progesterone, but it's all hormonal. So in a sense, I used to talk a lot about hormones. And what I found is, that was getting in the way a little bit, because it's all hormonal. It is all hormonal. So if you're talking about, well, what about, okay, if I'm having hormonal stuff though, Jade, like menses, it's an estrogen and progesterone issue, and once I get close to menses, it's starting to impact my cravings. Well, that is good to know. This goes back to the other person's question about how long will I know? Well, every month you have the opportunity to feel those cravings. And just because it's hormonal doesn't mean your metabolism won't respond to outside influences. Add a little bit of starch. That might take those hormonal cravings away. Take the starch down. It might take those hormonal cravings away. Get more sleep. You might overcome those hormonal cravings. So they might impact brain chemistry, but there's things you can do to impact brain chemistry as well. For instance, when estrogen and progesterone fall off at menses, dopamine and serotonin change in the brain as well, increasing cravings. That might be what you're talking about here. Well, guess what can raise that? Going for a walk, getting in some exercise, taking naps, sex, all those things that you can basically, I'll design, more sex, more walking, a couple good workouts, and some spa therapy to overcome those deficits. Guess what? Cocoa powder. We designed a product called Craving Cocoa specifically for cravings, and it works best around menses. So you can overcome these hormonal fluctuations. And that's the whole point. If you understand these 5 laws of metabolism, you start to understand you have a huge amount of control. Thanks for that question. My friends and I are battling cellulite. Any connection to metabolism? There certainly is a connection to metabolism, but cellulite is, here's the thing with metabolism. Humans share 99.999% of their metabolism. That's what makes us human. It's just like if you saw someone walking down the street, you could physically see that's a human, not a black bear, right? But then when you got up on that human, you'd be like, oh, look how unique they are. They look different. They talk different, this, and this. That's how the metabolism works as well. So the metabolism for women, 90-some% of women are going to have some degree of cellulite. That's a genetic thing. And it's also a genetic thing, and it's determined by how much fat you have on your body, and collagen, which we can't do a whole lot with. However, we can burn fat from particular areas of the body. And if you're effective at burning fat, you're going to be pretty effective at decreasing the appearance of cellulite. If you're able to build muscle, which is continuous with the connective tissue, you're going to be pretty effective at tightening that area up. But some women are always going to have more cellulite than others. Any woman will tell you, right? I learned this because I work mainly with women my whole career. there's women who are skinny with very bad cellulite. There's women who are overweight with much less cellulite. There's a large genetic component to this. If you're interested in cellulite, search metabolic effect cellulite, and you will find several blogs on that I went in depth on that. I am so sleep deprived. How can I sleep more? I fall asleep but wake up numerous times at night and only get about 4 hours of sleep. Okay, so we're getting ready to end this call because we're coming up on an hour and a half, and I know what happens. This is, and thank you, by the way, for these questions. I appreciate your trust in me, but what ends up happening is we started one way, right? Now we're all going to start going into our personal health concerns, and I understand that. One of the things that I do every Monday, 2 to 4 Mondays a month actually, but it's almost every Monday, is I do a Q&A coaching call to answer calls like this so you can get your personal sort of stuff answered. But in this particular question, we did a whole program on sleep. Get that program. If you are sleep deprived, please spend the $100 and get the program. It will change your life. So that program will extremely help you. Go on Metabolic Effect, get the sleep program, educate yourself on sleep. I'm going to take 3 more questions and then we're going to end, guys. I'm sorry, there is a huge amount of questions. I feel very bad that I'm not going to be able to get to all these, but I'll tell you what, please send any questions in that you feel like, Jade, oh my God, I hate your guts. You didn't get to my question. Send that question in to support@metaboliceffect.com. Put question for Jade in the subject line. I'll get to that in my Monday Q&A call. You can listen to it on the podcast or just save your question for next time. Okay, question here. How do I build muscle? I'm very weak. Weights are out now. I'm unsure what this question says, but it's very simple. You got to lift weights. So weights can't be out. And that's just the truth of the matter. So you might say, well, Jade, how do I build muscle? I can't lift weights because of my shoulder. Well, then lift with the shoulder you can use. Lift weights with the legs. There's no way to build muscle unless you lift weights. There's no way to build muscle unless you move. Plain and simple. There's no other answer to that. You're not going to magically build muscle by sitting in a chair. Now, if you eat more protein, there's some indication that will keep you from losing as much muscle. But the only way you're actually going to build muscle is by doing weight training. And guess what? That's one of the only ways you're actually going to change the look of your body. So this question says, how do I build muscle? I'm very weak. Weights are out now. So I'm assuming there was some kind of injury there. But to me, this is always something that I can help you with. If you can't use your upper body, lift weights with your lower body. Go to the gym every other day and do lower body stuff. If you can't use your lower body, lift weights with the upper body. If you can't use your right leg, lift weights with your left leg. And I don't understand why doctors don't teach this, but you have to move. You have to move and you have to lift weights. There's no other way around it. I wish there was, but there's not. Do any parts of this plan need specific adjustment due to hypothyroidism? Great question, right? Because I am hypothyroid. And I'll give you an example. And my business partner, Gary, my best friend as well, me and him, we are always talking nutrition and metabolism. He is a ex-bodybuilder. He does not have hypothyroidism. He is a couple inches shorter than me and, I don't know, about 30 pounds less weight than me. He weighs about 190, 195 roughly. And he has to eat about 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day just to maintain his muscle. Now, I am a hypothyroid person. I am 30 pounds more than him. I am a little bit taller than him as well. I'm 225 pounds. And if I go much above 2,500 calories, I have just learned this through working with my body throughout the years, I start gaining fat. And so those of us who are hypothyroid, it sucks. We can still lose weight. The idea that you can't lose weight because you're hypothyroid is not based in any fact at all. Basically, what it means is our bodies are more efficient at storing fat. So we go back to the law of metabolic efficiency. And what happens is that the hypothyroid person has a more efficient metabolism, meaning that they store more of the fat they eat, meaning that you're going to have to really find a way to live on less calories. Now, when I was a young man, I used to eat the same thing Gary ate, 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day, and just didn't have to worry about it. Could have my burgers and this and that and do what I wanted to do. But the reality for me now with the hypothyroid condition, I simply can't do that. So what it means is you have to be more diligent than the next person with your diet. So sorry about that. God, I wish it was different for me too. Next question. Thank you. Thank you. Lots of thank yous. Thank you guys as well. Okay. How do you prevent metabolic slowdown as menopause approaches? I'm 45 years old and want to do what I can to prevent problems before they crop up. Thanks. Go back to law one and law two, metabolic compensation, metabolic multitasking. That's how you stop this slowdown. You have to understand those. The menopausal metabolism, as estrogen and progesterone start falling off, this goes back to the question about hormonal cravings. Cravings go through the roof. Body fat starts being stored around the middle. You have to understand, recognize when you're getting out of balance. And through menopause, heck is going to go out of check a lot. And you're going to have to adjust. You're going to have to work very hard at finding the mix of nutrients and diet and exercise that keeps heck in check. I'll give you a hint. Walking becomes critical. Walk, 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 slow walking. Don't overdo exercise. Spend a whole lot more time in rest-based living activities. So instead of eating less, which is going to stress you out, and exercising more, which can stress you out, talk about metabolic stress, right? Instead of doing that kind of stuff, you want to spend more time at the spa, more time leisure walking, more time with friends, less time, eating crap. Probably want to start doing more weight training and a lot of walking. There's a menopause program at Metabolic Effect too that is hugely popular. Probably our most popular program. We probably get the best results on that because menopause is difficult. But again, if you guys are looking for more help, I am going to be doing a coaching program coming up here, launching, that you will get a special offer on. And we'll also have offers for one-on-one coaching very shortly as well. All right, couple more questions. Hi, Jade. What are your thoughts on calorie trackers such as MyFitnessPal for counting calories and macros? Counting seems to be the crutch that I can't seem to get rid of permanently. Great question. So here's the thing. Should you count or should you not count? I think I'm a big proponent of counting something, except for one big caveat. The caveat is you don't let the counting lead you. You use it as a back checker. So if I'm a detective, right, what I'm doing is I'm using the counting as a clue. I'm not using it as the driving force of the story. Most people be like, oh, well, my metabolism says, I just got my metabolism tested. I'm supposed to be eating 3,000 calories a day. Then they start counting that. Well, instead, what you should do is you should get your heck in check and start getting results, and then look back and say, oh, by the way, what is my calorie and macronutrient ratio? That's good information to have. As a matter of fact, I just told you guys, right, for me, 2,500 calories I need. If I go above that, how did I learn that? If I went and got my basal metabolic rate tested, it's actually higher than that, right? It's actually higher than that. But I learned that because I played detective, and I was like, I don't care what they say. 3,300 calories a day makes me a fat ass. So I can't do that. I have to play detective. And what I did was I used trackers and macros and calorie counting, but I didn't use it to guide me. I used it to back check my progress. And so, yes, use all the tools we have. Use them. Don't make the mistake of thinking that they are what are driving your results. The biggest mistake you can make in weight loss is setting a calorie number or a macronutrient ratio number. And it's unfortunate. And I understand why other practitioners do this and coaches do this, but it does not work. It does not work in the long run. It'll work for 4 to 10 days. Then your body's going to compensate. And then you're not going to be burning that amount of calories anymore. So just do it the right way. Use the counting and calorie and tracking things to back check. Get your heck in check, see that you're getting results, and then happily look back and be like, oh, this is great. I'm getting results. By the way, how many calories am I burning, eating, and what is my macronutrient ratio? Maybe I should stay around there. And guess what? It's going to change. And so that's why you don't want to get too stuck on it, because even that will change. Your metabolism is changeable. Go back to rule number one. These laws, I went through these laws for a reason, guys. So you really want to master them, because a lot of these questions, if you notice, I realize it's your first time hearing this, but a lot of these questions, if you notice, they go right back to the laws. This is a metabolic law number one question. Thank you for that question. Really great question. All right, Jay, thanks for the great seminar. So this is someone from Australia. Wow, thank you so much for being on. Thank you. Okay, and you said those with hypothyroid tend to be yo-yo more than other people. Why is that? Okay, so this is a follow-up question to the hypothyroid question. And the reason why is because it's a very simple question again, right? Those with hypothyroid have a narrower range of metabolic flexibility, so to speak. So this goes back to metabolic law number two, the law of multitasking. Human metabolisms are not great at multitasking, and someone who is a hypothyroid metabolism is even worse at multitasking. And so they will end up in sort of big trouble. Do supplements help when you go into compensation? And what is the best for sleep deprivation and then cravings set in? Do supplements help? Yes, supplements can help. Supplements can help, but they won't do the same thing that macronutrients will do. Those of you who aren't familiar with macronutrients, is just protein, fat, and carbs. Those are going to be your big movers, and they're not going to do the same thing as getting your exercise right. But yes, some supplements help. Matter of fact, the two supplements that help the most when it comes to cravings and compensation and things like that, we actually made these at Metabolic Effect because they're actually not supplements. They're actually functional foods, protein powders and shakes. The research is so good on these things, and cocoa powder. And so if you go on Metabolic Effect, we've invested in two products, a craving shake product and a craving cocoa product. And they're not even really supplements so much as they are foods. And these are the things that work. These are the things that work. All right, going way over time, but I really want to try to there's so many questions. I'm not going to be able to get to these. I have been watching many programs, listening to many people who have fought cancer and won. Most of them eat a diet high in vegetables and low in meat/animal products. Yep, okay, so this is a great question. This is a nutritional bias that needs to be looked at. I used to believe the exact same thing, and I was hanging out mostly with vegetarians and people who ate a lot of vegetables. So that's what I saw, and those people tended to be healthy. However, in clinical practice, that is not the case. I see meat eaters who are so unhealthy, and I see meat eaters who are shining examples of health. I see vegetarians who are just completely unhealthy, and vegetarians who aren't, and everything in between. The research, though, says this. One thing we do know, we can't say much about animal products, except that we can say those who eat a very high vegetable diet and fruit diet tend to have less disease. We don't really know why, but we can say that pretty conclusively. And we can also say, based on evolution and anthropology and sort of looking at the health of the modern day hunter-gatherers that eat a lot of vegetables, but also eat plenty of good quality protein, that those individuals as well seem to do very, very well. Now, there are popular diet books out there, things like the China study and all this kind of stuff. Now, I'm a research buff, so I've read all this study. Great studies, completely wrong in my personal opinion. If you're going, in other words, this is based on population studies that looked at, and those of you who are interested in this, I think it can start going over your head, but please hang on and listen to this because it's so important. This person is asking a question about popular things out there in the media that can completely mess with your head. But population studies don't show cause. Okay, what I mean by that is here's a great example. Do synthetic sweeteners or no calorie sweeteners, do they cause obesity? Well, a lot of people say they do because of population studies. Epidemiological studies show that obese people are the ones who they use these products. Well, why would they be using them? There's two things that could be happening there. Are they causing them to be obese, or are obese people more likely to use non-calorie substances? Obviously, the latter is true, isn't it? You cannot make causality assumptions with epidemiological or population studies, and that's why this very wrong idea is here. Research tells us that vegetables are absolutely probably the most protective thing we can have. Research also tells us that populations who are eating tons of vegetables and good quality animal products are also very healthy. What research does show conclusively is that people who are eating refined foods that are devoid of vegetables tend to do a little bit worse. But you'll find people in all different areas, vegetarian, meat eaters, etc., who are both healthy and not. Such a good question. I do challenge you, please, don't use your own personal experience, your N of one or your N of 5 different friends. Make sure you're reading things from all different. I made that mistake when I was young, and it did not serve me. All right, final question. What do you say about? Sorry, that's the follow-up question. Next question. How are we to apply this new knowledge to figure out how to balance our individual metabolism? That's what's coming in the next sessions. That's what's coming in the next session. So your homework, everybody, Still a ton of you on the line. That's really awesome that you all are here and still hanging on. But your homework is to study the 5 laws so that at your next visit, when we talk, you're going to understand exactly this question. This question says, how do we apply this new knowledge to figure out how to balance our own individual metabolism? That's what comes next. If you want a head start, lose weight here, our book will give you some of this, but you're going to get all of it in this training. By the way, I'm just letting you guys know I'm giving you everything. You're getting every. I'm not going to hold things back and be like, oh, you got to buy my book. I'm actually giving you everything. However, you're going to have to study. You got to take responsibility for this stuff too, guys. It's new information, and you can't just expect to know this stuff right away. You're going to have to study it, right? I'm not going to be able to give you. It's too complicated to give you the 1, 2, 3 ABC. I know we all want the magical meal plan to fall from the sky, but you're going to have to do some study here. So great question. Thanks so much for that. Study this. You'll get the replay. Go back, make sure you understand these 5 laws. Once you do, we can move on to your question. All right, guys, I'm really sorry. There's probably 30, 40, 50 questions here, and I really am sorry that I can't get to them. But it is getting late, and I don't want to keep you guys up. I don't want to make you sleep deprived. But thanks for hanging out with me tonight on the webinar. You guys are wonderful, and I will see you next time. By the way, tell your friends, send them the registration link for Metabolism School, get them in so you guys can talk about this stuff and they can learn as well. Okay. Thank you. Getting a lot of people saying thank you. Thank you as well. Thank you, Edith. Thank you, Elise. Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Zoe. All right. Thank you, everybody. And good night. Have a great night.